Hey, and welcome back to Acting Like an Actor. I'm your host, Sophie Jordan Collins, and this week we have Atlanta-based actress Rae Derosa. Rae is known for her work on shows such as Amazon Prime's The Summer I Turned Pretty and Hulu's Tell Me Lies. She also stars in films such as Lifetime's My Professor's Guide to Murder and California Dreamin'. She chats with us about how she booked her first guest star, why she tried out both New York City and Atlanta, and the realities of booking a big show and then transitioning back to life. If you're curious about the Atlanta market, this episode is for you. If you want to know how someone books a guest star on a major show, this episode is for you. If you're curious about life after booking a big show, this episode is for you. Rae was such a joy to chat with, and she has such a lovely mindset regarding this business and how it's hard, beautiful, and weird all in one. Let's go.
Are you rich?
Are you famous?
What have you been on?
I don't really recognize you, and neither does my mom.
Can you laugh?
Can you cry on command?
I mean, you said you were an actor, man.
What's your backup plan? Is it shattered?
Dude, I'm just acting like an actor.
If you've watched a few episodes, you know our first segment we usually do is irritating icebreakers. So I just ask you 3 mildly annoying questions that are kind of random.
I love
Cool.
that.
Okay, so I know you were just talking about your cat, you said, right?
I have 2.
Oh, you have 2 cats. Okay, if your cats could talk, Rae, what would they say?
So Squash, who's my orange idiot, would say, "Do you think that I should jump off the top of the highest point in the apartment?" And to it that I would say no. And Moon Pie, my like spicy black girl cat, would probably just be yelling at Squash.
Do they get along pretty well, though?
They do, they're brother and sister.
Okay, cute.
So they love each other. They beat the crap out of each other.
So you bought them in tandem, though, huh?
Yeah, I got to meet them when they were like, I think 2 weeks old. Because we knew the kitty was pregnant. They found her on the streets.
Okay.
And so then we stole them away. They're the light of my life. They're my children.
I've thought about getting a pet. I'm just not ready for that commitment yet. Not yet.
I understand that because I don't even think I am, but I have them now. So
When was the last time you tried something for the first time? Which you got a new job, so.
I guess that's true, but I'm trying to think of something cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't remember the last time, but I am going whitewater rafting this week. So
Oh.
I think it's gonna go horribly, but I'm excited to try-ish a little bit.
Ish.
I'm not.
Positive thoughts.
I'm honestly very scared. Very scared. But we'll be okay.
Have you been before?
No, I've never done it.
Okay.
Yeah, me and my sister are going to Costa Rica. So there's all these things
Oh my
planned.
God. Fun.
I'm excited, but I'm scared of most of the things.
Okay, and my final question, if there was a day in your life that you could relive, what would it be? If you had one.
Honestly, probably my first ever day on like a real set. Because I was just like, I don't like, you go through all this stuff and all the auditions and trying to get an agent and all that stuff. And then you're like there and you're like, what
Yeah.
the heck is happening right now? And just like that moment, like I remember so much from it. And I just was so like everything that had happened to me in my life that was bad that got me there. I was like, I don't care anymore because I'm happy that I got to this from that. So I'd say that.
Yeah, no, I love that. We'll dive into that story later on, I'm sure. But okay, so Rae, do you want to give us just kind of what's your story, Rae? Like, how did you get to where you are today? How did you fall into acting? All of the things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Jersey. I have a Guido Italian family, and we moved down to Georgia when I was 3. So I've lived north of Atlanta since then, and I started dance at 15. So I started things very late, and then I ended up, there's a whole other thing with it, but basically I started acting at 19. And then after that, I moved to Atlanta and struggled to get an agent here, and then I got that, and I got, The Summer I Turned Pretty, and one other show and a movie, and yeah, I'm trying to give like the Sparks Notes version because I don't want to like ramble, but
Honestly, yeah, do you want to kind of dive into that? Because I read you did an interview from The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I was reading about that, and it was talking about how
it said you'd been struggling for an agent for like 3 years. And then you kind of booked The Summer I Turned Pretty. And then you also booked, I think it was that Hulu show at the
Tell
same
Me
time. Like you
Lies.
did back to back really big projects. So do you can you tell us a little bit about that 3 years, that slow period, and how it kind of led into these bookings?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 19, like I took an acting class because I don't know, I was in a sorority in college. I didn't feel like it was really like my thing at all, and I was trying to find somewhere to fit in. And I'd always liked like the emotional part of dance, and so I was like, maybe I could do it with words. And I hated my acting class because I was really shy, and I like wanted to like curl up in a ball and hide.
Yeah.
And my teacher, I skipped a lot of class because I was very anxious. And my teacher was basically like, if you don't audition for the play this semester, you're failing my class. So I was like, okay, well then I'm auditioning for the play then. And I auditioned. I didn't think anything of it like that would happen because I was like, obviously not. And then I got the lead. And so that kind of like finally like I got permission to like do this thing. And
Yeah.
I was actually able to enjoy it and like be open with my emotions and all of that stuff for the first time. And so after that, I kind of made the decision like I'm doing this for the rest of my life because
Yeah.
I know I'm good at it. I know I love it, and I am going to do everything I can to try to make a career out of this. So I end up after a few more years at that school. I was in school in South Georgia. I transferred to school in Atlanta because that's where filming is and everything, and you can only do so many plays in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. And so I moved here, and I got my first headshots done, and like I was like, oh, I'm gonna book an agent like straight out the bat. Everyone says I have a great look, it'll be fine. And I was submitting to agents for I think 2 or 3 years straight of just trying, hearing nothing back, like not even like a you can tape for us or anything, because I didn't have a reel or anything like that. And so I'm like a self submission queen. I don't know how, I know that's why I love you. Like I saw your stuff. So many actors would be like, oh, I don't self submit. And I'm like, I would be nowhere if it wasn't for me going so hard at that. I self submitted for, 2, 3 years. I got as many short films as I could and little commercials. And then I actually got an acting class that basically the only people in the acting class were with the agency that I wanted. So I was like, I'm I'm doing the roundabout way, but y'all are gonna see me and at least let me audition for you. And so about 3 different people in that class recommended me to this agent, and still wouldn't let me audition for them until the last person did, and I actually went to college with him. And I auditioned for them, I signed with them, and 2 months later I booked The Summer I Turned Pretty. Maybe less than 2 months, honestly. And I was kind of, I was like, well, one, I was like over the moon, but two, I was like, maybe you should have signed earlier.
Yeah, for sure. So that agency got you the audition for The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's incredible. I love that. Can you talk to us a little bit just about that project in general? Because I know that's such a cool show and everything like that. What was the audition process like? What was it like being on set? How quick was the turnaround time? That type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So it was probably a, like a month into getting like professional auditions for the first time. So
Okay.
I was just every audition I got, I was like having a panic attack, freaking out because like I didn't, you don't know. A lot of my friends had agents, but I was just like pumped every time I got one, and I was kind of teetering into like getting comfortable with them at this point. So for The Summer I Turned Pretty, I auditioned, I want to say 3 times for like all the teens because I was the same age as like all the people playing 16.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I was playing 28. But I auditioned for the teens, didn't hear anything back. I end up going on a bachelorette trip to Mexico. I get wasted, and I come home very hungover. And on that trip, I think I had a 2-day turnaround. I got the audition for Victoria, which was the part I played.
Yeah.
And for the first time, instead of handling with like extreme stress and like freaking out and panicking, I was just like, I'm just gonna be chill about it, and I'm just gonna let what happens because honestly I'm tired. I had a lot of fun this weekend. I'm happy with my life. I'm feeling good. I'm just gonna go in. a little hungover and we'll see what happens. And luckily, I fit the character really well. And also, I think me being hungover gave me a chillness that I
Yeah.
don't naturally have at all.
Love that.
It gave
Yeah.
me like this vibe kind of. And I also,
Hmm.
that's what I was going for in it. So it kind of helped mellow me out. And literally, I shot the audition and I sent it off. And then I got a DM about, I think, a week later from someone who had cast me in one of a self submission trailer for a movie that never got made, that it paid like $100 a day. She had cast me in that. She now works for the casting director for The Summer I Turned Pretty. So she didn't like push for me because she was a casting assistant, but she knew
Yeah.
that I got it. So I get a text in all caps. I'm like eating tacos on my couch, and I get a text, a DM in all caps that just says, it just says, "Bitch, you got Victoria," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" And she's like DMing me. She's like, "I can't. Don't tell your agents because I'm not supposed to tell you yet, but you're pinned." And I'm like, "Wait, am I pinned or did I get it?" And she's like, "They're clearing you with the network right now." So I'm like running around my kitchen, panicking because I'm like, "Well, I'm
Yeah.
technically not booked. I'm not. You didn't clear it yet." And then like 20 minutes later, she's like, "You you booked it. You were accepted by the network. Your agents will probably tell you tomorrow." And I just start hysterically crying
Yeah.
because I was still in the point like where I'm like, I try to be very self-confident, but I'm also like, am I good at this? Like, is this gonna work?
Yeah, absolutely.
So many of my friends had been doing it since they were little, and like they've had their whole life to work and practice, and I'd only had like 3-4 years at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just started hysterically crying and like calling my mom and everything. And then when
No.
my agents called the next morning, I was like, what? No
Yeah.
way.
No, absolutely. That really is like the thing though in the process of being an actor is like you work so hard for all of these years, but the bookings can be really few and far. So
Oh,
when
yeah.
those happen, like that is amazing. And also this was your first like big guest star, and The Summer I Turned Pretty was such a big thing. Like that was, it has like a cult following with the books. I read the books as a teen. Like
Really?
I was so excited for the show. Yeah, girl. I know that was the first thing when I saw you, and that was in your bio on Instagram. I was like, oh my gosh, she was Victoria because I watched the show and stuff.
That makes me
So yeah,
so happy.
so
I
cool.
got really lucky with it because that wasn't like just my first guest star. That was my first booking ever.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
I was like
Wow.
losing my absolute mind.
Well, way to go in with a banger with that first booking, girl. That's awesome.
I just like you audition for so many things that like they're supposed to be big, but then they're not as big, and like blah, blah, blah. And I had never heard of The Summer I Turned Pretty. I only read Goosebumps. So the fact that it like kind of did what it did is still like just a very luck thing for me. Like that because I always was like, if one of my friends can see something I'm in, then I'm happy. And I'm like, oh, my friend saw it, so that's so
Yeah.
fun. I was very, very, very lucky that I got that to be like my starting point.
Lucky, but also, girl, you deserve that
Thank
after
you.
all of those years. And truly, Ray, too, like, that's incredible that just after a couple years you got that. I know that that feels slow, but my girl, I know the actors, and I'm sure you do too, that have literally been at it for like decades and decades and have
Mm-hmm.
still not star a guest star in a big show. So the fact that that even happened after just a couple of years is really incredible.
Thank you.
And it's also incredible too, just how it all kind of weirdly worked out, even with the like you being drunk for the audition and like you auditioned for this casting assistant once. Like it really does. It reminds me of like I always tell people like what's meant for you finds you and no one can take that away. And I believe that about acting too. Like that role was meant for you and nobody could take that away.
Oh,
And everything worked out as it was. So
it was really
I
like a beautiful little like moment because now I'm like it's been like 3 years since I booked that, and it's really also just like I've realized this as time has gone on. Like the fact that there are roles that are looking for people like you at a certain time is such a big thing. Like I 2 years ago or 2 or 3 years ago, I there were so many like roles that I fit really well, and it goes through phases of that. Like right now, all my blue-eyed, blonde-haired friends are auditioning all the time, but I'm not auditioning very much right now. And then other times I'm auditioning all the time, and like so it was a very
yeah.
like, lucky combination of things to happen at one time.
No, 100%. That's so true, though. You're right. There are like ebb and flows in our industry with kind of like the type they're looking for and the roles that seem to be getting cast. So that's incredible. Can you talk to us a little bit about like how many days did you work on The Summer I Turned Pretty? Where did you guys shoot? Like just the kind of fun
Yeah.
little details.
So we shot in Wilmington, North Carolina, which I didn't even realize was a beach. I was driving there and then I was like, wait, this is gonna be sick because it's right on the water and there's like a lake and an ocean. And so I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks. I ended up being there for 2 because one of the cast members got sick and so they had to like rearrange a couple things. Um, but I was only on in studio for a day. We shot all of the inside of the house stuff on a studio that out there. And so I was only on there for a day, which that was my first day, which is why like it was just like what the heck is happening? Because it's much more chill when you're like on location and you can kind of like hang out somewhere, do whatever. But I'm like I had never been on like a big set before other than like extra work. So I got there and I ended up always reach out to the people because I was literally alone for 3 days because I got there. I didn't shoot for like 5 days. And so I saw that one of the other cast members posted a picture and it looked like the hotel that I was in, that they put me up in. And I was like, maybe they put her up in the same hotel. So I like DM'd her and then luckily she was like, yeah, come hang out with all of us. So I got to meet everybody before I, or I think it might have been after the first day. I'm not quite sure, but I still like got to go out with everybody. And then we ended up like going to the movies and going on like boats and hanging out on the beach like 2 weeks. And I was like, this is quite literally the what could only be the best case scenario because you get to meet friends and hang out with them and film with them. Like I got it was just a perfect scenario.
Yeah, 100%. I was stalking your Instagram and I loved like just like the videos of you guys like holding hands spinning around on the beach and like I was like, "Oh my gosh, it looks like summer camp or something." It looked like such a fun shoot.
It was really so fun because everybody was great. Like the whole cast was amazing and super welcoming. And we just had a ton of off days, so we could just hang out and kind of do whatever we wanted. And like even though on on the last day, I was like I had a little mentee bee because I was like sitting on the couch with everybody and like you're looking at a bunch of people that like their careers are pretty much set for the next like 4 or 5 years. And you're realizing like, oh God, I'm gonna go back to my waitressing job after this. And I they were obviously everybody was so sweet, and I got close with a certain few people, and yeah, like it was just like a crazy realization to go like from that right back. But now talking to so many of my friends, so many actors go through that, and you like live this like dream thing, and then you're like, oh well, now I'm back.
Yeah. Which is like, I know, it's like the highs and the lows of this career, but I also always remind myself at this point in our career, we're kind of lucky we do that because as actors, we're portraying human beings.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, like, when we're working our regular jobs and things like that, we're very much like still getting to be regular people. I think about the people that are, the like A-lister actors where that's all they do. They have to be more intentional, I think, about like
Hmm.
being human beings and like making sure they live life. Whereas for us, it's kind of integrated. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Not to
Absolutely.
say that we don't want to be A-listers, but still, I'm like,
No,
I
but
try to think
really,
of the beauty in the.
like my 10 years in the restaurant industry, dating like shitty bartenders, it's really
Yeah.
built the character.
Yeah, yeah, right? Yeah. No, I love that. Okay, so speaking of which, so you booked like The Summer I Turned Pretty, and then you also booked Tell Me Lies. Like there was like multiple TV things right around the same time. So I'm curious for you, Ray, like when you booked The Summer I Turned Pretty and started kind of really working consistently, semi-consistently as actors after that, was there something that you like changed in your training that you feel like led to that booking and all the other bookings after it? Or do you kind of think it was pure luck? Or was there something intentional you did?
Truthfully, I had started, it's kind of both. Like, I had started
Yeah.
letting go a lot more in my
Okay.
auditions and not trying to fit it perfectly because, on the Summer I Turned Pretty, I had such a hard time. I was like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And then at one point, I was like, wait, this is literally my role. Like, when you watch this, someone's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's her role. But in my head, I was still like, well, what did they want? And like, what could someone
Yeah.
else have done? And so I had really kind of just started to like live my life a little more and act a little less. Like, not to say like I was still in training and everything like that, but just like the pressure of like, oh God, like I have to get this kind of got released. And then it came back over time and now it's released again. It,
Yeah.
it changes. But
Yeah.
I think that energy, like I hear so many people say, like the ones that I wasn't too hyper focused on, or like the ones I didn't think I would get, I ended up getting. And I think it's because you come at it with this energy. Like from the first play I was in, when I was forced to audition, the girl that was at the table when we were auditioning, she said that she knew as soon as like I started talking that I got the role, and I asked why, and she was like, because you were just so confident. And I'm like, I was confident because I thought I was gonna leave and go get a drink and like never do this again because I thought there was no shot, so there were no stakes. And so
Yeah.
I see that, but then also just, you know, it was shooting in Atlanta at the time and they needed like a ton of people auditioned, and I think I just fit the look and the vibe that they wanted. And that, so it's like a mix of both things, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so last year you had a really cool movie come out that I dabbled in a little bit. Professor's Guide to Murder, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Can I ask you, was that your first lead in a feature film
Yeah.
or no?
Yeah.
It was. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, you're like the lead. Like she's on the cover, all of the things. Can I ask you like what was the audition process for that? How was
Yeah.
playing the character of Ashley? All of those things.
So that was a self submission, which
Cool.
I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I told you, I still like, I probably annoy the heck out of my managers because every time I see something, I'm like, can you submit me for this? Because I could do it, but you have a bigger pull. Um, and so it was a self submission. I was really excited because I saw Haylie Duff was directing it. And like, me and my sister, I have a twin sister. And so we were like obsessed with the Duff sisters growing up. And so I was like, well, I want to meet Haylie Duff. And I auditioned for that casting director for Lifetime a bunch of times, all self submissions, and I'd never gotten a call.
Can I,
Hmm?
can I the casting director? I'm just curious.
Ricky Massler.
Ricky Massler. Okay. It was a Lifetime movie, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And so I auditioned for a million times, never got a call back or anything. But I sent in a self tape. Not gonna lie, I used a teleprompter because
We've all been there.
Ricky with them long, long auditions, like 12 pages. I love her, but they are long. And I shot it, and I was literally in the worst mood that day because I was like, I just moved to New York. I didn't like it, and I was stressed, and I was like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I'll do it, whatever.
Mhm.
And I heard back about like, I think like 3 weeks or a month later, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
just like casual, like you're booked, and I was like, and so then I end up getting a text from Haylie Duff, and she's just sending me like all the ideas she has for the character and like all this stuff. And I'm just like texting her, and I'm talking to my friends. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then so that's how I got that. We ended up shooting that in LaGrange, Georgia, which is the middle of nowhere, if you're wondering. Um, and actually, the girl that plays my best friend in the movie is now my current best friend as well. So it was a really sweet situation, but it was scary to do like the first lead of anything.
Absolutely, yeah. I think too, a lot of the time as women, we're like the lead female, but it's really like the actual lead is a guy. But this seemed like a movie where no, like you were the lead. Like it was a female-led film, which is super cool.
My absolute favorite thing about it is that there was no like romantic or sexual undertones about the character whatsoever. And like, as a gal that plays a lot of girlfriends, that made me really happy.
Yeah. No, I love that. I also loved too. I was reading some of the reviews on IMDb, and I liked because we all know Lifetime movies have a vibe. Okay.
Yes, they do.
Um, And I watched some clips of this and I thought it was beautiful. Like your performance was great. But I was also reading some of the reviews and a lot of people were like, the plot was kind of cheesy, but the acting was so strong. Like the lead girl was so wonderful. As I was reading on IMDb, I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. People were like, somebody was like, I didn't expect to like this movie, but the acting was so authentic. And I was like, dang, that's so incredible.
I'm not gonna lie, I read those too.
Yeah,
Because
no, why
it's a
don't we
Lifetime
talk?
movie, you know. You don't know how it's gonna be perceived, and like, yeah, like
Yeah.
it's still gonna be Lifetimey. But we were all saying like when we were on set, like we had some really great actors. Like every actor on that movie was incredibly talented, and Haylie is a great director. So we really had all of the pieces to. I like I'm proud of it. But even like I had those moments on set. I would text Haylie at like midnight and be like, "Am I even doing a good job?" And she'd be like, "You're doing everything perfectly." And I'm like, it's a weird thing with leads because you almost do less than everyone else because you kind of just push you're the through line of the story, so there's not that much.
Mhm.
Like sometimes a side character has so much more going on than the lead because you kind of have to reflect what the audience sees themselves as in the movie.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. You're not the one usually, it's others causing the conflict a lot of the
Hmm.
time for the lead. You're right. You're not the one who's kind of like pushing the buttons and things like that a lot of the time.
You're just like
Yeah.
realizing things
Of
all the
course. Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
So I was
good
like, "Am I
point.
doing enough?" And she's like, "You're doing everything perfectly as you would." And I'm like, "Okay." Now that I watched it back, I'm very proud of it. But it was very scary in the moment to be like the supposed through line to this whole thing, and you're like, "Is it fitting? Is it working?"
Um, so I'm curious, are you one of those actors? Is your process the same for every role or does it kind of depend?
It very much depends, because
Yeah.
like one of the favorite things I ever read was about Anya Taylor-Joy, and she was like, I used to feel I'd walk onto sets and somebody would have like something this big of just papers falling out of like notes and everything, and she's like, I didn't have anything because she's more of an intuitive actor, and that's how always I've been. Like it'll just like sometimes I do like a ton of homework, and then other times I just kind of take the character from the emotional point of in the moment, and I would always feel guilty because either way I felt like I was doing it wrong. Because I
Yeah.
went to theater school, and I switched my major to theater after I did one play, and you learn so many different things. And I'm actually right now trying to get kind of a more concise um, process with a coach because as much as I like being intuitive, it does stress me out because
Yeah.
I feel prepared, but I don't feel like it's as written out as I would like it to be. So I'm still working on that process,
Yeah.
especially for auditions when you get like this much of anything.
Yeah, no, I love that. I kind of think too, like our process is never ending. So I like that you said you're working on it with a coach right now, but I also think it's like something we're all going to kind of adapt the more life we live and with all the different roles we do. Um, I agree with you though. I'm also more of an intuitive actor, but then that does give me the imposter syndrome sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've also been there where I'm on set and I'm looking at the other actors with all their notes on the script and all their highlights, and I'm like, am I doing something wrong? But that's the beautiful thing about acting, though, is there is no right or wrong way. There's just whatever works for you. So easier said than done. But
No, yeah. Like the best
yeah,
thing that works for me is just like of remembering because as an actor or just a person that's anxious, I feel like I pick up on a lot of people's energies, and I just try to right when I read it, I'm like, who is this reminded me of in my past? If I'm like, oh, it's that girl that was mean to me and I kind of thought she was a bitch, or like this, like even one role I was playing a very masculine, um, openly lesbian woman in the 1940s, and she had, like leads a school. This was a play. This wasn't a show. I don't know if I could pull it off, but um, like Obama was a big thing for like how she talked and everything, and like the kind of like stature that she held. And I like didn't study Obama, but I just kind of went with that vibe. And I don't like I try to tell myself like that sometimes that is enough for a role. Like if you can just mold into it.
I almost think too, depending on the role, sometimes prepping then stresses me out more because
Same.
then I'm not being as present. I'm like almost thinking too much about my prepping. It's the same way with me for memorizing. I know some people are like, I like to have it in my bones, like go over it a billion times. And I'm like, no, I like to just like have it, but not, I can't keep going over it and over it and over it, or I get too stuck. Like I need to,
Same.
I don't know, there's a fine line.
Yeah, like I think there's two times when that really makes sense to me. One is when the role is so similar to you that by just being you, you fit the role. Like that's how I felt about Victoria. I added a little more like if I was like cooler and like chiller. But for the most part, that like I honestly think I got that role because I fit that energy well. And it's a big chunk of me. But then also like sometimes I do a better audition with a teleprompter than with lines because I'm stressing about trying to remember them. And I can just like let the feeling go with a when I have a little bit of help with the lines.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because again, yeah, you're not stressing about memorizing the lines. You can just be present and say them and not have to think about it. So I know I also use the teleprompter too. Some of my friends roast me for it, but I don't care.
Well, it doesn't translate to set. Like now, like you're not
Of
supposed
course.
to audition.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to audition to a camera with no one there. Like that's
of
not
course.
how it's supposed to be. And even like in all the old auditions, like they were holding sides.
Of course, yeah.
But now we're
Yeah.
supposed to make little mini movies, what with like weird blocking and no one to work with. So
Yeah.
it's like do what you gotta do, like to make it feel the most honest to you, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I agree. 100%. Okay, you touched on earlier how you moved to New York for a little bit. Can you talk about that and what that was like?
Yes. So I'm still like so that was 6 months ago. Or not 6 months ago, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I spent 6 months there. That was from July-ish to December of last year.
Oh, okay.
And I had really just, I was kind of at a point where I had always lived in Atlanta or like near Atlanta, and I just wanted to try something different. I really wanted to get back into theater, but there's like only musicals nowadays. And I'm really grateful that I did it because I got to try something out and see. But, at the end of the day, like this is what I learned through my New York experience. It is
Hmm.
okay to live somewhere where you are comfortable. Because I was like, oh, I gotta go and I gotta do the city thing and I gotta like figure it all out for myself. And the reality is like I do want to live somewhere else, but right now, we had the strike. It's it's tough out here and I'm really happy. Like I have such a great acting community in Atlanta and I've really loved it out here. So I don't know what'll happen in the future, but it was a great, like how you said, like working in restaurants and stuff. I learned a lot about myself in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, life's about like seasons too. And so you
Hmm.
spent a season in New York and you learned a lot. And now we're in the next season. You're not
Yeah.
there anymore.
And now I
Good.
can go
So
visit all the friends I met there.
yeah, of course. Yeah. So you were auditioning? Oh wait, you moved there during the strike. Oh my gosh, the whole time you were there it was during the strike. So was there like no work basically?
So it was kind of like, so it was before the strike, but it was when they knew the strike was coming. So that big slowdown that
Okay.
happened before.
Yeah.
It was during that I actually booked Professor's Guide to Murder while I was in New York. And
Okay.
I was so happy because like it had been dry. Like I'd hardly been auditioning at all and the strike hadn't even
Yeah.
happened yet. Um and so I came home to shoot that and that's kind of what did it for me. Like I literally saw an empty parking lot and I started crying because I'm like, wow, it's so peaceful. Because New
Yeah.
York was just so much.
Yeah, no, I get that. I recently went to New York City for the first time last year. I'd never been before. But you know how it's like you always think like especially if you're not from one of the big markets, like I'm from Michigan. So it was like, do I go to LA? Do I go to New York? Do I go to Atlanta? And I was like, I'm so glad I picked LA over New York at the very
Hmm.
least because New York is so chaotic. I get overwhelmed by LA. Like I think it's too much here sometimes, but New York is next level. I
And they
could
really
not live.
don't film too much in New York.
That's another thing too. You're right. There is much more film work, yeah, elsewhere.
My best
What?
friend's from Michigan actually, and she moved to Atlanta for acting.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So that makes me wonder. I'm just curious, like, how I know this is a weird question, but like, how overall busy do you feel as an actor in Atlanta? Like, do you feel like there is a lot of work there. I know you've never been to LA, but I'm just like curious between the two. I wonder, is there still a good bit in Atlanta, or do you feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, so the Atlanta market it's a very interesting thing that I feel like I know pretty well now. You will
Yeah.
be so busy at some points and then so slow at other points because it all just depends on what is filming here and when. Like,
Mm,
for example, when Tell Me Lies was filming here, every single person I knew was auditioning probably 8 times for that show because there were just so many roles that needed to be filled and all stuff like that. But then at the same time, I've never once auditioned for Stranger Things because I don't fit that world, I guess. And so you can be really busy or you can be really slow. Like I'm really slow right now because Tell Me Lies is back, but I can't book that because I already did that. So, but all my friends are auditioning like crazy for that. And so Atlanta, it's very like here and there. I do have an LA manager, but that's only for like the bigger stuff. So that's very much like few and far between. But
yeah.
it's an interesting market out here because they will try like it's great because you can get really good guest stars here with no credits because
Yeah.
there's just more opportunity out here. But there's still a weird thing that happens where they want to pay you less than LA or New York actors, or like they'll credit LA and New York actors more than Atlanta actors, and I think that that's changing now because so many people have booked really great roles out of Atlanta and they're doing amazing. But there's still
Yeah.
a weird idea in the industry that we're all kind of hoping will go away at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I do feel like I hear from my Atlanta and my New York actor friends sometimes that for whatever reason there is this like stipulation about LA actors where it's like they're like paid more, like treated da 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 da, simply just because they live in LA. I don't
Yeah,
know how true whatever, but
I have a
um
crazy story about that.
yeah.
I was, I'm not going to name the show or anything like that, but there was a show that I got from my LA manager an audition that was
Hmm.
filming in Atlanta. And
Okay.
so I was like, oh, great, I live in Atlanta. So like we don't even have to worry about travel, like blah, blah, blah. And it was a big guest star. And basically they told me that they were asked like, well, she's based in Atlanta. Will she take Atlanta pay? And they were like, no, you'd already be saving on travel. And I don't know, I didn't get that role. I don't think that that had anything to do with it, but that was just a wild question in my book to be like, well, wait, you were going to fly someone here and pay for their housing. But why would you pay?
Wow, yeah, and they're still trying to. Isn't it wild how those? It's always like the bigger production companies too. I was just having this conversation with someone. I was like, why is it always the bigger production companies and the bigger projects trying to lowball us?
I
I
know.
feel, and then I do these like silly. I'll do these like silly little commercials with smaller production companies that pay me like double what I get when I work on like a network show, and I'm like, this is really
Right?
interesting.
It's weird. And like that was a long time ago. I think the strike changed a lot of things because I know that was one of the stipulations of the strike is like no pay discrepancies based on where you're from. I don't know if that's what they got. I haven't read the whole thing. I was just happy it was over. But
Yeah,
it's
fair
it's
enough.
it's a wild thing, but that's why like the few well, there's a lot of great things about Atlanta, but the main things that are my favorite is like you can come here with no experience and if you fit the right thing at the right time, you can book like a massive show, like a guest star, even like what I did with like not even a demo reel. And two, like it's just such a good small community. Like if one person books, it's like everyone books because that's just a win for
Yeah.
Atlanta, you know?
Yeah. Do you feel like all of the actors kind of know each other there? Is it that type of thing? Like you go to set and you see the same people a lot of the time, things like that?
It's certainly getting there because I actually had two experiences. I one of the friends that was in that first acting class that I took to try to infiltrate the agency. He
Yeah.
was a really close friend, and he was actually on Tell Me Lies in the same scene that I was in. And then the other guy from
Wow.
that scene, I just did a short film with, like
Oh,
last week,
so funny. That's so
and we
funny.
didn't even know each other were doing it. So it's definitely I'm starting to learn now that I'm like getting even more involved and meeting more people. It's pretty.
Yeah.
I would say a lot of people know each other.
Okay, cool. That's like the best. That happens in LA quite a bit with us where it's like we'll go to set and we'll be like, "Oh my gosh, we like this." and it's so fun because it feels like dang, it kind of feels like wow, this is like our regular job. We're like seeing our coworkers, our
Exactly. You're like, oh,
acquaintances, like
guess you're on
so
set
fun.
again. Well,
Yeah, right. That's so fun though. I am curious, Ray. Have you ever thought about trying out LA or no?
I've wanted to. It's kind of so. I did to get my manager. I kind of did lie. Um,
Okay,
I sent a cold email.
gotta do what you gotta do.
That's what you gotta do. I lied about LA a little bit because I sent a cold email. They're based in LA. I really wanted an LA manager just because the Atlanta market sometimes can be tough. Um,
Yeah.
just simply because I look like a bunch of different races, but my race is I'm like Italian, so
Okay.
it can be a little hard to fit some of those hyper specific roles. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to look into a different market and see if I could fit that one just as well or better. And so I
Yeah.
sent a cold email and I got one sentence response and it was, "Are you based in LA?" And so I said, "Yes. Part time. I'm based in LA and
Yeah.
Atlanta."
Yeah.
You know, like,
Mhm.
yeah, sure. And they were like, "Okay, we'll set up a meeting in 2 weeks. So we'll just meet you there." And I was like, "Okay." So I got a plane ticket, and I,
Love it.
because like this manager, like it's my current manager, but they shouldn't have been probably
Yeah.
talking to me. And I flew out there, and I like was like, "What the heck am I doing?" And I got in the meeting with them, and I was like, "Hi, I lied. I live in Atlanta, but I would really like to work with you, and I feel like we could work well together, and I would love to audition." So I then fly home, convinced that they're not going to sign me, and I'm like, why did I just do any of that? And then they sent me an audition. I ended up fitting the audition very well, luckily, and then they signed me, and I was like, okay,
It was worth it.
it was
all worth
definitely worth it. But
You know, I love that story, Ray, because I feel like, and you hear this from even the A-listers too, it's always when we do those crazy things as actors that people tell you not to do, that like good things come from that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of
yeah,
the time when you break actor rules that things end up working out. So good on you, girl. That's how you know you want it. Like, might have done some funky stuff, but hey.
thank you, thank you. That's like I was panicking the whole time, but I have no connections in this industry, like other than just the people I've met. And
Yeah.
like no family knows how to do this, like I don't even know how to do this, and I was like, I
Yeah.
want someone on my team that knows how to do this and has like
Yeah.
started careers for people before. And I was like, I'm gonna take a leap and figure it out. And it's been great. And that's why like if ever I book something out there, I would love to move there. I just for right now, I can audition there and be here, so I'm kind of like,
100. Mm-hmm.
and I
That
have
makes
like a
sense.
friend I can stay with if I need to. So, but hopefully one day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also think it's smart what you did having reps in other places. I still have like a rep in the Midwest and one in New York and stuff too. And I even tell my rep in New York, like, if the project's big enough and cool enough, like I'll work local. And sometimes too, especially if it's like a big commercial and it like, if they're paying me like a
Oh
few
yeah,
grand or I'll work local for a commercial. Like, don't even worry about like my
absolutely.
travel and stuff. So sometimes when they get weird about, oh, you're not based here, I'm like, no, but like I'm gonna act like I'm based here. Like you don't need to worry about
I got
any of
addresses. I got friends. I'm like, hey, by the way, can you send me
right.
your address?
No, for real.
That's why I would say like
Yeah.
any like actor that's starting out, like I would get an Atlanta agent because you're gonna have access to shows that like we should like. If it was filming in LA, I don't think a lot of people would have the same access to what actors have in Atlanta for these shows and these roles.
Yeah. I've and talking to you makes me want to do it more. I've thought about doing what you did with New York to Atlanta, where I purposefully moved there just for a few months to like test the market, just like catch the vibes. So
Well, hey, you
yeah,
don't even
just
need to move here. I have friends that live in New York and friends that live in LA that have Atlanta agents. And they just audition until they book something and then they're like, "All right, I'll go hop over there and then I'll come back."
okay, Ray. We're coming to a close here a little bit, but I want to ask you, um, what are some ways that you stay sane in this business? What are some ways that you take care of yourself if you're feeling a little stressed? What do you do?
Definitely like I would say the biggest thing, and I like to be very transparent about this, I have financial support from my parents. And I like, because I would never want someone to like see and be like, oh, she was able to move to New York and all these things. Like I've had help, and I'm very grateful for that. I have lots of friends that completely support themselves, and they are the hardest working people I know. But I would just say like doing things that make you just feel good about yourself. Like even like rotting on your bed for 3 days. Like if that's what you need, do
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
like, I got my cats and I thought it would stress me out more, but it's something to take the attention away from like the constant as an actor, I feel constant pressure to like get somewhere before a certain age, or like make sure
Yeah.
that I'm submitting to everything and like making sure that I'm not missing out on anything. And just like opening up your world a little bit to like my cats even, or like reading a book or going for a walk or getting a job that has nothing to do with acting, like because I know some people who will, their way of like focusing on acting is like they isolate and they just go really really far into it, and
Yeah.
that works for some people, but I'm like I need to like see my friends, like have a drink, be a little bit irresponsible in order to be very responsible for my acting career.
Yeah. No, I love that. Again, it comes back to just like being a human being and like doing normal people
Yeah.
things, filling your cup up so you can come to your craft full.
Yeah, it's so hard to be an actor if like all you're thinking about is being an actor all the time, and like that's obviously that comes first, but you gotta live a little, you gotta do some
Yeah.
stupid stuff to
Yeah.
kind of like liven up your own soul and your life.
100%. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I always end off with my fast, frisky five questions. So it's five rapid fire questions that require a lot of thought. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite quote, Ray?
Oh God. I need to. It has explanation, but it's life isn't about waiting for the storm to clear. It's about learning to dance in the rain.
Oh, I love that. Do you want to give us the explanation? You can.
It makes me seem less cheesy. At 15, I decided to be an artist, and I wrote that on my wall, and then my friends saw it, and I had to draw a little rain cloud because I messed up on the word rain. And so then my nickname became Black Rain, and it somehow got intertwined with witchcraft, and my nickname was Black Rain all through high school. But I really
Oh,
liked the
cute.
nickname.
No, that's cute.
I really
Yeah.
liked AHS Coven, and it kind of just all came together.
I love that. Um, so what is a place in Atlanta that you love that not a lot of people know about that you would recommend?
Muchacho.
Chacho.
It's
Okay, noted.
it's a coffee shop and bar and restaurant with a huge outside patio on the Beltline, which is like a path that goes all the way through Atlanta. And it's just I think I graduated college because I just did all my work there because it's so nice and pretty.
Aw, cute. Do you have a favorite line in a movie that comes to mind?
It's why are you sweating? And then the answer is I was watching Cops from Step Brothers.
Pickles, yay or nay?
Yes, absolutely.
Recent obsession of yours?
Måneskin. Do you know who that is? It's an
No.
Italian rock band.
Okay. I'll have to check them
They're
out.
really good. They won Eurovision. I got really into Eurovision.
Oh, cool. Okay, love that. All right, Ray, do you have any final words for our acting like an actor peeps?
I would just say like thank you for having me on here, and like I just want to say it's so cool what you do because you've inspired me a lot. Like watching your TikToks and the way that I feel like we approach the industry in a similar way, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
I think it's such a great thing to see because you can like try to be a better actor and like get all the best roles and like everything, but like I really respect putting your like getting into it yourself and making it happen for yourself.
Yeah,
And that's all I see you do, and I think that that's the best message you could give to like any starting actor.
thank you. Yeah. Well, you're a testament to that too, girl. I mean, booking that big guest star off the bat. So, hey, but yeah, thank you so much for being here, Ray. And yeah, acting like an actor, friends. We will see you guys next week.
Awesome, thank you.